y'all. Hey. Something happened with my connection. I don't know what's going on. Hey, y'all. How's everybody doing? Hey, y'all. Hey. So I'm going to get started because something is going on with my internet connection. So it actually did something weird. So I'm getting started all over again. But we going to get started. So I'm Tiana Nichelle. I am the owner and CEO of Bella Lux, which is a beauty boutique. I'm also the CEO of Empower Society, the app, which links people with disabilities with resources in their area, and also the Empower Society organization. Brief background about me. I used to be a teacher. Kindergarten, first grade, preschool, did it all. Helped take care of my siblings, so all of those different things. But so I got some life lessons and things like that. So I have these conversations with friends and different people. So we just gonna get into the different conversations. This is Crown to Sierra. So this is about the lessons that we were not taught, things that we should have been told, and all the things in between. Initially, I meant this for the older generation to impart wisdom and things like that into the younger generation. But we gonna make this a black conversation. So, and then we can transition into all of the other stuff in between. So today's talk is about, so this is life. So a lot of us as adults are figuring out that there are a lot of things that we did not find out until we probably hit 30, 35, some of us 40, maybe 50. And in figuring this stuff out, it's like, hey, why didn't nobody tell us this? Why didn't our grandparents tell us this? Why didn't our mothers tell us this? Or our fathers or whoever? But we've learned some things on our own. And so I believe that if the older generation actually tells us or imparts some things that they learned and being transparent about the mistakes that they made, it can prevent a lot of things from happening to the younger generation. A lot of us have dealt with, let's just say, mismanagement of finances, because nobody told us how we should budget or how to buy a house or how to have a relationship, whether it's with our friends, with family, with boyfriend or husband. A lot of us were not taught a lot of things. So we just gonna get it all out in the open. And this is an open forum. I'm not just gonna be sitting up here just talking and dictating my ideas to you all. You all can feel free to, I'm gonna let you all come in and state your opinions or whatever you want to say. It's open to all of that. So let's just start off. So this is life, right? As parents, there are many parents, that when you have kids, you usually don't tell them everything because you're trying to protect them from either the world, or you don't want to tell what you have been through. And some are embarrassed, and it's fine. Parents are human beings, and let's start off there. So there is room for error, and a lot of parents don't understand that they believe they have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You're not gonna have all the answers. You're not gonna get it right all the time. And it's time that we just say parents don't get it right all the time. We're all adults in here, so we already know that there were mistakes made and things like that, and it's okay. But we once we have kids, we cannot make those same mistakes that were made with us. The buck has to stop right here. So this is a part of what this conversation is about. It's just to be real about whatever the life lessons were that needed to be learned that you did not learn. So on behalf of all of the elders, because now I'll be 37, so I'm considered old in the world now. We apologize for not giving you all the information that you should have received. And now it's time for us to tell you all our own experiences so that you all don't make the same mistakes. So I'm gonna open the forum for anyone that wants to kick off the conversation. So right now we're just talking about some of the things that we wish would have. Yes, I am an elder. At almost 40 years old, you are an elder, because there's things that you have learned, things that you can teach. I have nieces and nephews, godchildren, all of that. That does make you an elder. And there's a lot of wisdom that comes behind being almost 40. So there's things that we can teach the younger generation. So that is an elder. But I'm opening it up for us to talk about what were the things that we wish our parents would have taught us. So let me see. Let's see. Did you say tell them Pearl, man?
Uh-oh. Hello. I look a hot mess, but hi, everybody.
Hey, girl. Hey. So what are the things that you wish that your parents, aunts, uncles, somebody would have taught you?
So one of the main things I talk about, and I definitely have been talking about this recently, is financial literacy. Growing up in my family, my father was able to have a home in his late 20s, early 30s. My auntie, she was able to have her own home at 25. And with those experiences and how they were able to obtain those things at an early age, I am now 37 years old, and I am just now figuring out how things go when it comes to credit, how things go when it comes to obtaining my own home, even buying a car.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just bought my own car a few years ago. Didn't even know how to do that. Financial literacy is huge, especially when it comes to our community, because we are not offered the same services that others are offered.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wish that if my parents would have sat down with me and say, hey, listen, don't just tell me don't use a credit card, because actually not using a credit card is not a bad thing. But what you should have done was told me this is how you should utilize a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Only use these things for emergency things. Pay it off as soon as you're able to. This builds your credit, X, Y, and Z.
Even credit utilization. But you know what?
Yes.
A lot of them did not know how to actually use
I
a
agree
credit
with
card
that.
and actually know about utilization and all of the things that go along with that. So that one is kind of tricky. But as far as home ownership, a lot of them own homes and did not tell us how to own a home.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And so I kind of felt like they kind of dropped the ball on that, especially once we graduated from high school. In my age group, it was just like either, all right, you go to college, or either you get a job. You know, saving. Never was taught how to save money.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Which was huge, because I would have been able to obtain these things that I needed back then if I would have known how to save. And let's just be honest, especially depending on where you grew up at, they don't teach you those things. When I took home economics, they didn't teach us that stuff. They taught us how to balance a checkbook, which is rarely used nowadays. And that was basically it, like where our money actually comes from. But other than that, it wasn't taught to us in school. This is how you should save your money. When you make money, this is how you should do this. Invest is another huge thing that we were not taught. So even though there were some things that they just really didn't know, but the basic stuff that they knew was not even taught to us. And I kind of felt like we definitely should have known a little bit more than what we did know, because a lot of us in this age group have jacked up their credit
and
and
made a
didn't
lot of
even know what they was doing.
made a whole lot of mistakes. Bumped our heads on plenty of walls.
Everything that we have learned, especially when it comes to that, has been through trial and error thus far.
Yes. Now, I will really agree with the fact that a lot of them they had ownership and did not say how they obtained anything.
Yes.
Whether it was saved until they got maybe $5,000 to $10,000.
You're right.
But these should have been life conversations. And a lot of times, and what we as a people don't realize, this stuff is taught to our white counterparts at a young age.
Yes, it is.
It is instilled in them at a young age.
Yes,
their parents tell them, and from when they're 2 and 3 years old, what money is. They take them to the bank. They show them what they're doing, and we don't get those lessons. We shouldn't have to ask for those lessons.
Right.
We shouldn't have to pick and probe at 20 and 30 years old to get those lessons. This is something that should be taught from when we're young. A lot of our white counterparts have businesses by the time that they're teenagers. So now they know how to own and operate a business. They have stocks. They're told about stocks. They're told how to maintain it. They're told about different investments that our generation has not been told about, and our people have not explained to us, the ones that actually had the knowledge.
Absolutely.
And so that is something that I want us to be open and honest about, because in a lot of these conversations, they may hurt somebody. Somebody's feelings may get hurt, but we really need to have these conversations, because it's too much of being quiet, being secretive, and then it's a lot of us that are struggling.
Yes.
Broke, trying to figure it out, and 50, 60 years old and still trying to figure it out. So if somebody had told anything, any lesson, financially, from relationships to all of it, because even think about marriages lasting longer. Why did they last longer?
Yes.
Why didn't your elders sit down and say, hey, this is how we did this. This is how we went about dating. This is how we went about whatever the relationships were. It seemed like they were more unified than we are today. And so we're supposed to be a lot further along. But to me, we're kind of backwards.
We are. And I just saw somebody said, if they don't know, you can't blame them. So I'm strictly
it's not a blame game. That's
right.
Not,
it's not a blame game.
It's not a blame game. It's saying, if you know the information, why not tell the information to your children, to your grandchildren, to your niece, to your nephew? Why not have the conversation? Pull them to the side and say, hey, let's have a family meeting about this. Because these are the things that I learned. These are the things that I struggled through. I don't want you all to go through these struggles.
Exactly.
I don't want you all to go through this pain that I went through. So let me give you the game. Game is free. All you got to do is open your mouth and say what you know. So this is not about a blame game. This is about, let's be open about what we don't know, and let's find out what we can know, and then how do we pass that along to the next generation.
Agreed.
That's all totally, this is totally an open forum.
Absolutely. And so that was basically, I felt like, what could have been told to me Financial literacy is because I feel like I would have been further along if I could say, if I knew how to save, also if I knew how to invest, and also how to utilize these things that are very vital for me to buy things and to live. Everything right now is based off of credit. Unless you have the money where you can just pay everything off right away, everything is based off of credit. So instead of telling me when I was 18, don't you touch that credit card, because you already been there and done that as to why you said that to begin with, you should have sat down with me and said, okay, listen, you have a credit card now, you're 18, this is how you should utilize it. This is what you should do with it. Put me down as a authorizer, so where I can be building my credit while I'm in college, while I'm busting my butt making minimum wage. So I have better chances of having a successful rate of being out on my own.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I will say. Once I graduated from college and I tried to get my first car, they was like, you don't have credit.
Nope.
You need a co-signer. And I'm like, what? I got a job. I got income, but I don't have credit.
Right.
So I needed a co-signer. And I was 21. And I'm like, well, how do I go about getting that? Well, maybe you should ask somebody in your family. Well, I don't think ain't nobody in my family about to be doing that.
Right.
But had I known, you have to build credit. Because once you get out on your own, you need that credit in order to get something basic like a vehicle to get back and forth. Right. Credit is also used for when you rent an apartment.
Right.
Credit is also used for all of these other things, including getting a job.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just a lot of things that we weren't given, and we need to give. So give me the one thing that you would tell your child.
Well, one thing I have definitely started on is a 401k for my son and life insurance. The 401k is obviously for me, but I have him down as a beneficiary. Also, for life insurance, what I did not find out until maybe 2 years ago is that if I get a term life insurance for my son, when he turns 18, he can take that life insurance, cash it out, and use it for tuition.
Yep.
And so those are the steps that I have been taking to kind of get him on the right track. My son is only 4, and so I'm not able to sit down and talk to him as of yet, but I can set up those things for him now. So by the time he gets old enough to really understand exactly what I'm talking about, to set him up to be independent and be out on his own, I have already done those things. And those things, which is, the life insurance, and the 401k. And so I have already taken those steps. When he gets older, he will definitely be having a conversation about how to utilize these things and why I did it, and why it is very important to have those type of things, especially with what's going on in the world now. A lot of people don't even have that stuff set up. So they can't even use the emergency fund, or you can't borrow out of your life insurance or 401k because you did not even know the importance of it to begin with.
So how did you find out about life insurance?
I actually have a cousin that started out in the life insurance business, and she was trying to get me to basically join with her. And while I was kind of learning a little bit about it and kind of learning how to speak to people about life insurance, I was also being hip to the game about how it kind of goes and what I can use it for. A lot of people assume that life insurance is just for when you die. But there are a lot of life insurance policies out here that you can use, especially, let's just say, people gotten sick from COVID-19. What I did not know and learned was that you can use that and get you a homemaker to take care of you. You can actually borrow out of your life insurance depending on what type of policy you have. There are other different options out here. The thing is we have to educate ourselves on that. And they do have those type of resources out there. Some of them are offered when you get a job, and then some of the services are offered in your community, but you just got to want to learn it.
But
And
here's
once I
the
became
thing.
a parent, that was very important for me to learn.
So, did anyone in your family have it? And did they tell you about it? Did they stress the importance of it? See, this is the thing. One person knows the information again, but nobody's sharing the information. And
So
that seems to
listen,
be what's going on
yes.
within our community. People
So
find out
listen,
information and then hold on to it. So how do we
exactly.
tell the next generation on what they need to do in order to be financial literate,
Right.
to have different policies? Because even not just life insurance, you need health insurance.
Definitely health insurance. You need all these vital things, because if something happens, then you have a major bill. And now you're looking like, how am I going to pay this? Or there are certain services that you won't be able to utilize, and you need those things, like the elderly population. They need those things, but because only Medicare only pays for so much, they don't have the things that they need to sustain their life. And so, with that being said, depending on the policy, you are able to kind of use those services that you could not necessarily afford anywhere else. You've already been paying for those services through your life insurance. Now, as far as if anybody in my family has it, I just found out a couple of years ago that my mom has had life insurance for 36 years. Did not know that. My father did not have it, nor was it talked about until I made the decision to go ahead and get life insurance for my father, because I realized my dad is up there in age, you know, and if something happens, I can't afford it. I can't afford anything when it comes to
So
that.
hold on, let me go back to when I first started the conversation. I started off with saying that there are a lot of things that um, basically we think that adults know that they don't know, number one. And there are a lot of lessons that we did not learn, right?
Absolutely.
So there is room for improvement, but there's also room for forgiveness for some of the things that were not done correctly or taught to us or whatever. Because
Right.
adults are not perfect, parents are not perfect, but they try to get it right, right? So that's how I started off the conversation. I see that in the comments, some people took offense, and I said some people may take offense, and it's okay, but this is an open forum. So everybody is entitled to their opinion, their views, and we're going to respect whatever the opinions and the views are, but we're going to get real because these conversations need to be had. Our white counterparts are having them every single day, but we not having them. We want to sweep it under the rug. We want to hide from it. No, this
Mm-hmm.
stuff needs to be talked about. So, aside from the financial piece, what is another thing that you wish that maybe your mom would have taught you?
Definitely, how to, sorry, how to deal with relationships. And I'm gonna just speak from a personal standpoint. Um, I grew up, in church. But with that being said, they also sugarcoated a lot of things. So how I was raised was basically, when I got in high school, it was, don't let no boy talk to you. Don't let no boy touch you. That was it. So when I came across different situations and I'm sitting here stuck because I don't know what to do, it's like you kind of already know how to handle situations because, for one, you have kids. Okay. So whether it was a real relationship or not, you created life through a man. And so I felt like, in order to kind of lessen the blow for me, because we will go through our own individual experiences as well, that some things just can't be taught. You have to go through some of the things yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But what I could have been taught is Instead of telling me, don't let no boys touch me, don't let no boys talk to me, what you should have been saying is, okay, if a boy likes you, this is what he's supposed to do. And if you feel like he's pressuring you, then don't allow him to do this. Don't allow him to do that. I should have had more of a one-on-one conversation about how to start building relationships with the opposite sex.
Thanks.
And
Yep.
I felt like if I would have had that, I would have definitely made better choices of who I chose to deal with at that particular time. But because you go into this blinded and you don't really know, and all you do know is what either is displayed in front of you through your peers or through television, that's what you really go off of. And that's your fantasy or idea of how things should go.
Should be.
But that's not it.
So would you say that you, because I'm going to just speak from my own, I'm going to just talk about me. I'm not even going to do a hypothetical. I'm not going to do it. I was going to try, but I can't do it.
Right.
It's supposed to be a real conversation.
Let's keep it all the way real. You want a real convo? Let's keep it real.
Let's get real. So in growing up, my mama was basically like, don't talk to boys, right?
Right.
But I didn't like boys like that when I was little. I just thought they was goofy. Honestly.
Right.
I was like, they kind of stupid. They do stupid
Right.
stuff. So what is that like, right? So
Right.
when I connected more with boys as a little kid than I did girls, because girls were so prissy, and I'm like, I ain't
Right.
like that.
Right.
I want to roll in the dirt, climb a tree, do what they doing. It's cool. Like, I want to do that. So as I got older, though, I saw that she was like scared. Like, I couldn't hang out with the male friends I had before. And it was just like things changed. But instead of explaining, like, hey, especially when, you get your cycle, now's the time where you can actually
right.
This is how this happens. It was like, here you go, this is what you do, and
right.
don't let no boy talk to you. So it's like, wait, what? So
exactly.
Instead of giving, okay, this is the experience that I had. Your dad did this. Because my parents were married for over 20 years until my dad passed, right? So you would think that there would have been a conversation had, like, he courted me like this. We dated for this much time. He took me out on an actual date. There was no shacking up. Like, shacking up. There was none of this other extra added stuff. But this is how it went, and this is how it should be. This is how our relationship, what did he say? Hold on. Yes, I agree totally. Being real, explaining the mistakes they made. That's what I started with. And then instead of punishing the child for those things, because how does the child actually know that is a mistake that the parent made? How does the child actually know how to navigate when they're in these situations if it's not being told? Which is one of the things that I started off with. Kids don't know, right? But parents make mistakes, and they have to be honest about those mistakes. Parents a lot of times don't want to look bad, but it's not about looking bad, and they have to get over that. When you become a parent, you're a teacher. That's it, and that's all.
Right.
So now your job, you got 18 years to tell them what they need to know before the world kicks their butt.
That's right.
So you got a short window of time to expose them to the things that you were exposed to. You got to get real, because otherwise they're going to learn this stuff from their friends, and their friends know just about as much as they do. Nothing.
And
they're going to get them the wrong information.
Right.
Because think about it. What was our friends talking about? Nonsense that they knew nothing about. And about half of them was pregnant while we was in school because they didn't know nothing. Yeah, they had the same exact information, but their parents weren't having these conversations because they felt like, oh, you're too young. When is it too young to have the conversation?
It sure isn't.
Your sexual feelings are natural. God gave them to you. That's
That's
the other
right.
thing that I take issue with, saying, oh, just don't have sex. So what do I do with the feelings that I
Right.
have if you telling me this?
Right.
So this is stuff that needs to be talked about. Did anybody else want to get in on the conversation?
Absolutely.
Let me know in the comments. Let me know. What else did you want to say? Because you had something else you was about to say.
Oh, when you mentioned about they be too scared, I think, and let me just say this. So my parents were in the baby boom generation. And what I think it was that because there was so much going on in their own generation, they felt like the more we knew, the more that we would go out here and try those very things that they are telling us. But again, that backfired because what you don't know, you get curious about, right? What you don't know, once you do know it, now it's like, well, dang, how come I wasn't told that? Now you want to go out here and do it.
Exactly. But then how do you navigate that stuff? Because even during the time where I had my first boyfriend, mom was like, well, make sure you're not having sex because I'm not getting your birth control. And I'm like, well, I didn't think about having sex, but
Right.
if I was,
Right.
don't you want me not to have a kid if I decided to do that? Like,
Another
that
thing
don't
with
make
that
sense.
is
It don't make sense.
another thing I have realized too with that very point is a lot of these parents don't know their own child. They don't know their kids. They don't really know what they are capable of. Again, like how you said it, I was told the same thing. And I'm looking like I'm not even into sex. Ew. I was still stuck on, oh my God, I was in high school. And I was like, you ain't finna kiss me. That's nasty. But if you would have known me as your child, then you would have known that I'm not even into that kind of stuff. But I still need to be knowledgeable about it and be aware. So whenever I do become interested in that, I will know what to do. And that is the whole part of parenting. You want to guide your children to the right direction, and you want them to know certain things before they even want to go ahead and do those things.
So that they're armed with the right information.
So they are prepared for any situation that comes their way.
Yep.
Okay. And this is why teenage pregnancy comes about. This is why a lot of things. And I mean, some things we couldn't help. Parents busting their butt out here to make money, to provide. I get it. I'm a parent myself doing the same thing. However, you still have to take some of that time as a parent to impart those things in them so they will know.
Because you are the child's first teacher.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everything else outside of that is just reinforcement. School, any type of community things that your children are part of, that's just a reinforcement. But it really all starts at home.
And that's the thing that I've noticed, even like when you and I was teaching at the school.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the parents did not want to be involved with the kids. They were not doing homework with the kids. They were not teaching them anything. We were doing all the teaching, and they sent them to school like, well, you can deal with that, or you can handle their behavior, or talk to them about this. And I'm like, but that's what you're supposed to do, not me. So
yes, and they didn't even know their own child's potential. That was the messed up part of it all too, because now it's like not only are we working hard to get your child to where they should be, but then when you go home, you're not even reinforcing that at home. And so now you don't even know your own child's potential and what they are capable of doing because you're not taking that time to do that.
That's very true. So he said, since the beginning of time, the world has always been curious to test everything that was said to be forbidden, which is true. If it's never told why it's forbidden, we're going to find out ourselves. That's very true.
Because and that's why I said we're going to find out and get curious.
Not to do something,
Yes.
What did you do? You went and
Right.
did it because
curiosity killed the cat, baby.
you
It
like,
killed the
well,
cat.
why? And that's the other thing. The why needs to be said. The why needs to be answered.
Yes.
Because if you don't answer the why, they're gonna try to figure out what the why is.
Exactly.
And
don't tell me don't do this, and don't tell me why.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
So that was one of the biggest things that I was just like, I don't understand. My mom and I had the conversation. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this? You just said don't do this. And so
No.
it just, did he say lick the cat? Lord Jesus.
Look, don't be coming on here with no foolishness now. We having serious conversation.
We not doing none of that. Talking about curiosity lick the cat.
I mean, but in all essence, it did. But anyway.
So this is just a life conversation right now. This one is called So This Is Life. So we're just having a life conversation about the things that we weren't told, that we wish we were told, and things that we would want to take on to the next generation and tell them. Cause I've even told my godchildren some real stuff. Cause I'm like, y'all going to college, you need to know X, Y, and Z. Ain't nobody got time for y'all to be coming up, having kids, getting caught up with extra stuff. No, this is what it is. So these things do need to be said, because then they listen to their friends. Well, my friend said, baby, your friends know just as much as you do.
Exactly.
Let me tell you what it is. Because we done already been there. We already done that. And I don't understand why our parents just couldn't say, we did this, so I don't want you to do that.
Yep.
Here it is. I don't understand. Like, it's really that simple. But I think that maybe would put them in a vulnerable situation to admit the mistakes that they made.
And they don't want to be judged. Yeah.
So let me ask, do you think it's like a almost like a God complex or a savior complex, or I don't know. I've been trying to figure that part out.
So when I think about that part, because my parents were in the baby boomers generation, they did nothing but follow what was done generations before that. Because let's just be real, the elderly was just like, this is my business, we're gonna sweep this under the rug, we ain't gonna talk about it. But the problem with that is history repeats itself. Generational curses, right? How do you stop that? You stop it by having a real conversation. And that's what they did not want to do. They did not want to talk about those things. They felt like, well, that ain't nobody's business. And, it is what it is. And it is what I tell you it is. And you don't ask me no questions. You don't do any of that. You do as I say do, and do what you're told to do. That's it. That's all. And that was it. And so that kept getting repeated as the cycle. But unfortunately, with these generations, everything is different each generation that comes after one another. And so now, because my parents were in the baby boomers generation, they adapted that same mind frame. What's my business is my business. You do what I say do. And then now,
how did that work out for the children?
It did not, because we ended up repeating a lot of things that were done that shouldn't have been done. Regardless, once we know better, we are supposed to do better.
Do better, yep.
And so, yeah, they are afraid to be transparent because, again, they don't want us to know that they are not perfect. For some reason, they think that everything has to be perfect. There is no handbook, and of course, we know growing up, we're going to do what you say because you are the parent, I am the child. But once I start getting older and I start coming across these different things that I need to know, to sustain my independence as I get older, then that's when you should start telling me how to maintain these things or how to do those things. You don't necessarily have to put yourself out there in your own personal business, but at least explain to me, you don't want to do this and you don't want to do that because X, Y, and Z. And just know I know through experience, and that's it. That's all.
So we actually have a question.
Yes.
This person says, so I have a question. I have daughters and have had these conversations with them, but how do I handle when the other parent constantly goes against what you are trying to teach them? And that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Okay. Okay, he says more. Okay, hold on, let me scroll up.
Neither father gives the rundown on how to handle yourself with young men, but she, the mother, says it's okay to do this at a young age. Yikes.
So when it comes to that, especially if the parents are not in the same household, I would suggest, maybe this is just a suggestion, that you already know, because you've been a kid yourself, how childhood kind of goes, the innocence, and at what age you start to lose that innocence. I would suggest having that conversation before they get to that age where you would have to start telling them real life situations. And really, it's starting at an earlier age than what I would have thought, because these kids are having sex very early in life, 10, 11 years old. And so before they get up in age where you're going to be having these serious conversations with them, talk to the other parent.
So here's the thing, because he's saying he's giving them the rundown on how to handle themselves with young men, but she's saying it's okay to do this at a young age.
But see, that is a conversation when you have, because there's different variables to this. If you are in communication with the other parent, as you start to see your child getting older and you're starting to see, okay, I'm going to probably have to have a conversation with them. First, you need to have that conversation with that parent to see where their mind frame is, because you won't be the only one raising them.
Yeah, but it looks like they're already going back and forth. So what he's saying is she's teaching against what he's trying to teach them.
Okay, I got you.
So
okay, the conversation is already being made with kids. Okay,
whatever, because they're young. But he's like, no, this is how you handle yourself. And technically,
that's Tamika, that was the point that I was thinking about right there. You just mentioned it right there. But then there's a problem with that issue too, because our community thinks that it is a taboo to go to counseling or to have someone that the kids actually trust and listen to have those conversations.
So from what he's saying is there's a lot of back and forth that's going on. Now she wants to experience other things. So here's the thing. You're the dad, and you can only say what you know as a man to be true. And I'm going to tell you, from me being a daddy's girl,
yes,
my dad told me some things, and my dad died when I was 15. But he was putting me up on game, and I didn't realize that until I got older. The words that you say to your daughter will come back. So whatever you tell her, she's going to remember. And
I
it
agree
means
with
a
that.
lot to her. She may not know that now, but she will remember what you say to her. So still impart what you're going to impart.
I agree 100% on that.
Don't pit the other parent against. Don't do that one. Don't say, well, your mama don't know what she's talking about. Don't do that. But just say what you know. Teach her what you know. Tell her your experiences and tell her how things were or are as you are dating, if you're dating, or if you're married. Tell her the truth. And so for you, it may not feel like she should be learning these things, but she's almost an adult. So when she goes off to college, she's going to experience it whether or not you actually like it or know it. So you want to be her first teacher to tell her what she should and shouldn't do, but also should look out for when it comes to men. And even the games that some men play. I'm not saying all men do it, but boys play games, and we know this. College boys, 17-year-olds, because they silly. That's what they do. But you can tell her, because you are her first teacher, and these things, I promise you, will come back. And she'll be like, my
Yes, it
daddy
will.
told me this.
Yes, it
So
will.
right
And I have to
now, it
agree
may
with
not
that.
seem like she understands what you're saying. It may
Yeah.
not seem like she's taking it in, but I promise you this, it's going to come back, and she's going to remember that.
And I definitely have to agree with you. As a daddy girl myself, my daddy, if anybody knows my father has always been transparent. He has always told me what it was. It was just because my father was also militant. I used to be like, man, he tripping. Like, he doing the most. But now that I am grown and I have been through experiences my own, it's just like, yeah, daddy ain't never lied.
Yep.
He ain't never sugarcoated nothing. He has always told me what was real. And I have always had that, with me to help guide me, because that was all I had. I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
that type of teaching from my mom, but my daddy was always transparent. And so I will also say the same thing that Tiana has said. I'll piggyback on that and say that, yes, even though you don't think that they're listening to you, trust me,
They are.
they will. They may not use that knowledge and that wisdom right away, but as they get older, especially if they go through some experiences themselves, they're going to be like, yep, my daddy did tell me that. I should have listened. Seriously.
So Tamika says mental health is important, and there are a lot of adults suffering from childhood trauma that was never addressed. And that's how I started off. That's actually what I was talking about. That
Yes.
parents have their own issues.
Yes.
They're dealing with their own stuff. There's room for forgiveness. There's room for grace. There's room for not being perfect. But parents think that they have to be perfect. There's no handbook in being a parent. But telling your children what is necessary for life is the only thing that you really need to be doing, because life is gonna kick their butts.
Yeah.
So giving them the game that you learn at a young age is what you should be doing. And a lot of our parents did not give us that because they were trying to either protect us, maybe they were dealing with their own issues and didn't know how to translate it. But for a lot of us, we made a lot of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just an open conversation about how we take what we've learned to the next generation. How do we help them? How do we help them to grow, be better, do better, um, make better decisions in finances and
Mm-hmm.
dating and whatever they decide to do, whether it's following their dreams. Because some of our parents got hung up on what somebody else told them they couldn't do and didn't follow whatever dream it was.
That's
So
right.
whatever those things are, we just gonna have these conversations. Because our white counterparts are having the conversations, and they are a lot further along in life than we
Yes, they
are,
are.
because we're not being open, honest, and transparent about a lot of things that we have struggled with, but also because our parents didn't open up and tell us what it was that they struggled with, that they could have helped us or saved us from making these same mistakes.
Right.
So that's what this is really. It started off with basically older women or us 30 somethings, 40 somethings, giving the younger girls the conversations that we should have been told. But I felt like I should have opened it up more, and that's what I just did, was open it up more to have real life conversations about all of the things that we as a people have not been told or had to figure out, and what we wish we would have been told, and what we would
Absolutely.
take to the next generation.
Absolutely.
So what did he say? Life is still kicking some of our parents' butt.
Oh, yes, it is. It
And
really
that's a
is.
very true statement.
It is.
But even still, whatever knowledge they had, like you used the example, Khadijah, earlier about learning how to own property. So it's not just the relationship aspect, but a lot of our grandparents, great grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
aunts, uncles own buildings, houses, land, and did not tell us how to obtain these things. we just kind of got thrown out here and it was like figure it out. So a
Basically,
lot of us
yeah.
made different mistakes. We were talking about that earlier, but now we're talking about in our relationships and dating. Um, the things that we felt like we should have been taught. So, did anybody else have like a question that they wanted to ask or a statement that they wanted to make? Because you all have said a lot of stuff. Like it's been a mouthful.
We've
On
been
here for
going.
about an
We've been
hour now.
going. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just one more thing that I would like to mention before I, exit stage left. Um, but one of the things that I kind of remember growing up was the school systems offered at that time counseling. We had social workers, things like that. Now I don't really know because I'm kind of out of touch with all of that because my son is only 4 right now. But in certain communities, they still have these resources. Please don't be afraid to use your resources. There is help out here. It's just that sometimes we have too much pride in using them. But that's what
Mm.
these resources are for, especially if you feel like you can't do it all. Use your resources. If you have, therapists, a social worker in the neighborhood, in your community, or a family member, a pastor, somebody that is able to, your children these things or learn some things your own self. Sources, because that's what that is for.
So Kobe said, can't underestimate ignorance, and a lot of our elders are still ignorant to the things we should know. But that's not. So we're not talking about what they didn't know. There's a lot of things that they did not know, but the stuff that they did know is the stuff that they didn't pass
They didn't
along.
tell
So that's
us.
what we're talking about.
Right, right,
The
right.
stuff that they did know. We're not saying, oh well, they should know everything. When we started this conversation, we basically said parents are not perfect people. And it's okay not to be perfect. But what you did know, give us the game. Like, tell us what it is, what it do, yo. Like, come on.
Right.
Why am I just learning this lesson at 36 years old? You know
I'm
what I mean?
saying.
Like,
I'm saying.
why you didn't tell me X, Y, and Z, and I learned that at 21. So it's like the stuff that they knew. We're talking about what we wish we would have learned based on the stuff that they already knew. Because if you have a parent that has multiple properties, but they never sat you down and told you how they obtained them, then they have the information on how to do it, but they never told you. So
Right.
that's the stuff that we're addressing.
Right.
So finish what you were saying, because I was looking at his comment.
So really, I was just saying that, some parents honestly just don't know how to talk to their kids. And so I was just saying that use your resources. If you have a social worker, if you have a therapist that you know of,
But they
um,
don't want everybody in their business.
and that's the thing, because they have too much pride. But then at this point, what's more important? For your child to know and be more successful as they get older and become more independent, or hold on to their pride, and now your child is out here don't know how to maintain independence because they've never been taught, or don't know how to
But wouldn't
maintain
that be a
relationships.
cultural thing? Because I think we as black people are taught to have pride in everything.
Yes, but that's
I
the
think
wrong
that
teaching.
even from, if you think about great
Yes.
grandparents, it's like whatever happens in the house stays in the house. You don't tell nobody
Right.
your
They
business. You
swept it
couldn't
under the rug.
tell
Right.
if you didn't eat today. You better not go over such and such house trying to eat nothing, because when you get back here, you gonna have whatever we got over here. So
Correct.
it has always been pride there. So I don't know if we are quite ready to reach out for those type of resources, but at the least tell us how to navigate life. And that is
Right.
what this is about. Tell us how to navigate life. Tell your children how to navigate life. So
Right.
I don't know if you want to repeat for whoever just got on here, the one thing that you would impart into your child, or tell your child that you wish that you would have known?
So I think I had spoke about financial literacy, right? So, I didn't know anything about any of that until I started to get jobs that offered a 401k or that offered life insurance. And in the very beginning, I was just like, I don't even know what this is. I'm straight. But then the older I got, I was like, no, I think I may need that in case something happens. Like, no, I think I may need something that's going to help me save my money because I know that I am not responsible enough to do it on my own. And so as I started to learn and educate myself about these services, now I'm looking at it like, oh no, I have to teach my son this because I want him. We all, as parents or loved ones that care about, your niece and nephews or god sisters, god brothers, whatever, we all want them to do better than how we have done it, right? And so as a parent myself, if I want my son to be better than me, and I want you to be more successful than me, then I need to teach you those things.
Yeah.
Because I have already done it. I already know about it. I've already created this for you. And so what I have done was taking that step into the right direction for my son. And we have life insurance. I have a 401k with him as the beneficiary. And so if anything happens, he gets that money. For life insurance, what I can do is get a termed life insurance for him. And so instead of stressing so much about, oh my God, I got to save this amount of money, I got to do this and that, I've already been paying on that life insurance. Once he get of age, he can cash that out and use that for his tuition. And so now the only thing I would have to worry about as a parent to help him provide is actual food and clothes and things that he needs that don't necessarily pay for, depending on how much the policy is that I had for him. And so those are the things that I have already put in place for my son, because those are the things as he gets older, I'm going to be telling him, look, this is what I did for you. This is how you should use this. And I think it would be a good idea if you use it for college, X, Y, and Z. And then you take it on from there. But we have to prepare our children. We want the best for them. But if we don't prepare them, then how are they going to be successful?
That's true. That is very true. So with that, I think that's the last because nobody else wanted to get on the live, but a lot of people had a lot of things that they had to say, which is really good. I feel like this is a really good conversation. It's also like a conversation starter.
Absolutely.
To open the door for more things. But we just need to get real about what we needed,
yes,
and what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Because we want, and even too now we're in a society where everybody's like, have a business, own this, do this. But then they didn't tell you, well, I had a business, I had 3 or 4 businesses, or I sold door-to-door products. I was a Mary Kay consultant or Tupperware consultant, or
right.
They didn't tell you none of that, and they didn't say, well, we had to sell so many products to make this amount of money, and this is the amount of work that goes into it.
Right.
But we in the age of everybody needs to have a business, but don't nobody know how to tell their
Yes.
kid, this is how you run the business.
Right.
So we getting the information from outside people, the information that we could have learned at 18 instead of going to the club, we could have had a business.
Amen. Yes, most definitely.
So stuff like that, like it seems like a lot of people were taking offense to some things that was being said, but we got to get real about how we feel as, because we still in millennial, 36 is millennial. So how we feel.
Honey, I'm Generation X. I don't know about these millennials. I can't get with them.
We have to cut off. Look, we old.
Man, like we was right at the cusp. We was right at the cusp. Yes, honey. But yeah, in order for us, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is everybody wants everything, we always talk about let's be real and let's do this, let's do that. But when it really boils down to it, you don't want to be real. But how do you expect for a change to be brought up and happen if you don't have real
For
conversations?
conversation.
The truth ain't gonna always, feel good. Sometimes the truth does hurt. For real, for real. But in order to get to that level that you will want your kids or you yourself to be at, you're going to have to come to grips to some stuff. It's all a part of the healing process. It's all a part of evolution. It's all a part of it all. You're not
Yeah.
going to be happy with everything. There are going to be some things that may sting. It may hurt. But it's just like, all right, I got it. I'll accept it. What are we going to do now to move forward and do better?
Yep. And that's what this is. So, since nobody else wants to have any more conversation, we gonna end this because we've been on here for almost an hour and a half. But
Oh, wow.
I know, right? It went by so quickly.
It did.
But what I want to say is we just need to talk about all of the things that bother us. I think that this will be actually therapeutic for a lot of people because there are a lot of things that people are actually dealing with, struggling with, that they're not discussing, whether it's their own issues with the things that they experience on their own, or maybe, their issues with communication, because that's another thing. We are horrible communicators
Yes,
in our
we are.
families as
Yes,
a
we are.
people. So just different things. So I want us to be able to just come to the floor with an open mind, and just have a real conversation about what we didn't have and what we can tell the next generation.
Right. And I'm
So,
looking at Mr. Mario. He said everyone thinks it's judging or bashing. Exactly. And it's not. But these conversations have to happen. Like, I don't understand. If you want to change, if you want to do something different, this definitely has to happen. And it's not a bashing. It's not judging. It's just saying, like, man, why you ain't tell me?
the game was free 99.
Yeah, I could have had an 800 credit score by now.
Right?
Like, for real.
Shoot, I could have been married for 20 years by
Man.
now.
Don't get me started.
That's another conversation.
That's
honey.
That will take more than 24 hours to talk about.
But you know what? That is actually a good conversation to have because I noticed that some of the people that have been married a long time have not told how these marriages lasted, how it came about, the things that they may have struggled with separately, but then had to figure out together. Because I think, and I'm gonna just say this: we live in a generation that we making people options. And so now
Absolutely.
You think that you have so many options out here in the world instead of being with the person that you truly love. You like, well, I see
Right.
shorty over here and it's shorty over there. So if this don't work out, I can go with either one. Or,
Right.
I see dude over here and this dude got this, so I got options.
Absolutely.
Back then, they wasn't doing all of those type of options. Number one, there was no social media, so they couldn't be looking at butts all day and bodies and all of this other stuff. And
right.
Men with beards, all of that, all that extra stuff.
Right,
men
right.
Sweatpants, however it was.
Right. Stuff that don't even matter at the end of the day.
All of that. So they were able to focus more on the person that they were actually with. Mm-hmm. And we can even talk about the type of standards that the women had or the standards that the men had, because I feel like the standards were higher. In all honesty, I feel like It
Yes.
was like, you got to date me like this, and if you don't date me like this, we not doing this.
Right.
And so I think that the things have gone left because people are looking at, well, if he ain't making this amount of money, then I can't get with bruh because he ain't making six figures and he can't buy me that Birkin bag that I want. Or he
Right.
can't buy me, these extensions that I want. And it's not even about that. That's not even what the relationship is supposed to be about.
Absolutely.
So I think that it's become more superficial and more optional to actually be in a committed relationship, let alone a marriage. And these are the things that need to be discussed because a lot of our grandparents that were married did not tell us why they got married, uh, the things that they dealt with, how they
Yes.
stayed married, the things that young women need to do. Which I was watching actually YouTube. I forgot the lady's name, but I love this lady, but I cannot think of her name right now. But she was talking about how a lot of young girls don't know how to cook. Okay. And so she was like, I don't understand why y'all bragging on the fact that y'all don't know how to cook. Your looks gonna only take you so far with that man.
Listen.
And so I was busted up laughing because I'm like, that is true. But when did we create this idea that that was okay?
Right.
Like, why is it okay not to cook?
Exactly.
It's like, so y'all gonna just be going to McDonald's every day and feeding yourself garbage every day and then feeding the kids garbage every day? Like, I was just like, that's so stupid. Who told y'all that y'all don't need to be in the kitchen? And it's not saying that you got to stay in the kitchen and you got to do all of these chores. Like, nobody's saying that. But as a woman, there's some management that needs to be happening that a lot of women are not doing. And then get mad at these men because a lot of the times, even though men nowadays, they look at the options that's out there, it's a lot of men that I talk to that still want that old school vibe.
That
they
old
still
fashioned,
want that woman that's gonna cook, take care of the house while he go out and work or whatever the case may be. It's still men out there. So whatever these women are that's tricking themselves into saying that ain't what a man wants, that's part of it. And if he's looking at you for wife purposes, not sleeping with purposes, wife purposes, that's the key. Boo. That's the key. That's a part of the doggone package.
Yes. That's the key. And that's for real. Just like women look at a man as a provider. If you cannot provide for us in this family that we may want or whatever the case may be, then we don't want the man. It's the same thing with the woman. And then I feel like, too, that's just a necessity of life that you should learn anyway. You should learn how to cook. I ain't saying cook elaborate meals, you throwing down meatloaf and all that.
Be able to cook for yourself.
But you should learn.
Like the lady, I'm gonna put up the video. The lady was like, invite her, cook something and invite a friend over. I don't care.
Right. Exactly. And so that's also an issue. But it's also an issue of we don't understand our roles. And now we are living at a time now where they're doing this, and it's no judgment, this non-binding gender type of thing.
Non-binary.
Yeah, I can't even get it right.
I don't know. Y'all don't quote me on it. I don't know. If you know, put in the comments because I don't know. But
right,
yeah.
I don't know. But it's just sort of like it's kind of teaching you not to be responsible in your role. And I kind of feel like that's the wrong type of teaching, because at the end of the day, we hold the opposite sex some accountability of their role. Like I just mentioned, we want the man to be able to provide. The man wants a woman that knows how to cook and clean. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we do have specific roles that we need to be acting on and doing. And that has got lost in the translation some way, somehow. And
so let me ask you about the protect and provide piece. Specifically, what would you define as protecting and providing?
So some people think providing means financially. I don't necessarily agree with that. There are certain households where maybe the woman making more than the man. And so if you want to define it as far as, if she's taking care of the household financially, she is. But that does not exclude the man's role just because he may not be able to provide financially. So when I look at a provider, I'm looking at not only are you able to do that financially, but if you're not, to help teach, to help lead, you know what I'm saying, to guide and protect me, but most importantly, lead. And that got lost in the translation as well too, because the women are leading more, in my opinion. I could be
But that's
wrong.
the thing, like, one thing that I do notice that a lot of
I'm
women
making it
are in dominant roles.
right.
I think that the roles have switched somehow.
Yes.
And men are like backing off. Our black men especially are taking a step back because black women feel like they gotta be the man, be the mom.
We gotta do everything.
And a lot of black women make the statement, I gotta be the dad, the mom. No, you not the dad, sis.
You absolutely not the dad.
You can't never be the dad, sis.
Yes.
That ain't your role, sis.
Yes.
So we gotta stop saying that. But we're not in our roles like we should be. Women,
agreed.
we are multipliers and we are managers. That's why God gave us a brain that don't shut off, okay? Because
right.
we manage a lot of things and we wear a lot of hats. But our role is not to lead the family in that way. That's what a man is supposed to do. So a lot of times, women take on these roles, and then when they get a man, they don't know how to allow him to lead because they're too busy trying to lead.
Right.
Well, that ain't your role, sis.
Right.
You got to back off and allow him to do what he's going to do. And he might make some mistakes because we ain't perfect. We
absolutely
ain't
not.
perfect. I ain't perfect. Ain't nobody perfect. We might want to be, but we're not.
Exactly.
So we have to allow for that man to be a man. And if he makes mistakes, number one, allow the mistake to be made. Have a sidebar conversation. Don't be telling that man's business in front of the kids. Well, you did this. You ain't nothing, nigga. We don't do that. That's
right.
degrading. That's demeaning, and we not doing that. We don't need to be doing that. Enough of that. The buck stop here. We don't need to be doing none of that.
I agree.
I believe that how conversations happened when we were younger, like you didn't know if your grandmother and grandfather was really beefing.
That's right.
That stuff was, they talked about what they talked about. Like, I never saw my parents go at it, or my mama be like, oh, you stupid, in front of us. We didn't see it. So I feel like that's one of the things that should not be happening, but it is happening.
Agreed.
But women, to me, are overstepping their boundaries, and men are falling back. So now they're not in the position to lead. We got to get this together. So we gonna be talking about all these different things.
Absolutely.
And I thought it was some men in this conversation. What happened to the men?
Now, like, Kobe just said he was trying to join, but it won't let him. Can you send him the thing?
Okay, let me see. Wait, do I have to end you?
I believe so. I'm going to go ahead and go anyway because Kaden acting like he dying of hunger. So.
Hold on. Here we go.
All right.
What up?
Hey, how y'all doing? Can y'all hear me?
How are you? What
I'm
you got
good.
to say? What you got to say?
All right, for one, I want to go back on, and please forgive me because y'all was talking for a while and I was doing other things around the house. You were talking about,
too much for you.
Yeah, you were talking about how our parents did know certain things, but did not teach those teachings to us. And I can say that from what I've seen, a lot of times with the way that things have been set up in the black household, black families, is that there is no connection with the parents and the children to that point where they have those conversations. Another thing is that the parents don't understand how vital those conversations are. Now, I'm a 36-year-old black man with a 17-year-old son. Okay. My son knows about credit, he knows about establishing his business. But the thing is that I push to him first is pretty much not taking shortcuts, which is huge in our community, is where people want to take shortcuts. And the first thing you have to do is start with the basics. All right. And the basics come from the teachings that are at home and the teachings that are at school. And one thing that a lot of parents rely on way too much is simply the school, because
Yes, they do.
learning is supposed to start at home first. The
Hmm.
school is supposed to be an extension at home. My
Exactly.
son, my son goes to a private school, and before I made the decision to allow him to go to a private school, I told myself, if I don't have my home in order and the relationship with my son in order, my son won't survive. All right.
Absolutely.
Um, the other thing that I wanted to speak on was Khadijah had said something in regards to using the resources that are at school. I have a cousin that I actually just spoke to on the phone just about a week ago, he's incarcerated. And I asked him, I said, yo, what is your plan when you get out? And he said, man, I just want to be successful. I just want to be better. I don't want to be in a situation anymore. And I said, well, the best thing that you can do for yourself is that I know you love the people that you're around, mainly his family. I said, but the best thing you can do for yourself is rid yourself of those people and seek counseling. And he said, cuz that's how I know that you're different, because everybody else made me feel bad about wanting to go to counseling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
And I
sad.
told him, that is ignorance speaking to you. And when you come from where he comes from, there's a lot of ignorance, and that's normal. You know what I mean? And that's why I was saying earlier when I said a lot of our parents are ignorant to the fact what, and I think me and Khadijah, we spoke about this before in the past, what a lot of our elders consider normal, it's like, no, that's not normal. That's just normal for you because that's what you came up with and that's what you're used to. And actually, there's a fear of going out and experiencing what is actually normal. Okay.
Exactly.
I stayed on 72nd and South Shore for 4 years, and I met people that were in their 40s that had never been downtown Chicago because they were
Wow.
afraid to leave the South Shore neighborhood.
Yeah.
So
Never been outside of their home.
their life routine was
Yep.
get up in the morning, do whatever they got to do with their kids, go to work, come home, and go to the basketball court. That's what
Yep.
they would do. Now, another thing you guys spoke about in regards to men not acting like men. Now, this is a conversation that
I
if
didn't
you
say
get,
it like that. Hold on.
okay, go
When
ahead,
did
go
I
ahead, go
say
ahead.
men?
Yeah, because
We
that
said
ain't
that.
how we
Hold
said
on.
it.
We
Okay, go
said
ahead, go
that
ahead. Well,
women and men are not in their roles.
okay,
Women are being too dominant and acting like they are man and woman, especially when they're raising kids alone. They'll be quick to say, I'm the father and the mother. I got to be the father and the mother. You can't
okay,
be the father, is what I said. You
got you.
are the mother.
I
But
understand.
it's clashing with the relationships with the opposite sex. And we can't successfully have relationships with the opposite sex because we're too busy trying to be dominant. And I'm not understanding where that necessarily comes from. And maybe that's the strong woman complex that has been built. But it's putting a divide between how we have relationships between men and women. And so a lot of men are backing down from their role as leaders with black women, I say. I'm just going to say it because a
Yeah,
lot of black men are dating other races
right,
because they're saying we're too difficult to deal with
right.
or we won't allow them to lead. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a part of that.
Got
I'm
you.
not saying I'm not trying to bash a man. That's not what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
No.
Okay,
saying
okay.
neither one of us are in the positions that we're supposed to be in, but I'm gonna be honest. There are a lot of black women going around acting like they don't need a man for a lot of things when the man is very much so needed. And I don't.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and say what you was gonna say, because
Absolutely.
I'll come back. I'll circle back
Well,
around.
thank you for clearing that up for me. Now, here's one thing that I'm going to say. I agree with you 100%. And I'm going to be the one to say that men aren't acting like men. Okay? Statistically, just graduating high school, women are more successful than men are these days. Okay?
Yeah.
I went to a graduation one time at Carl Sandburg. And we know what type of area that is. Predominantly white. Students that were graduating, was a mix of male and female. Okay? I went to Bloom, mainly all girls graduating. All the boys have dropped out.
Wow.
Okay? Now, one of the most vital tools in any household is the education. And black men are really lacking education.
But
All
why do you
right?
think that is?
Because they're being raised by the TV. They're
Yes.
being raised by the music. They're being raised by the movies. You understand what I'm saying? I asked the kid, not too long ago. Well, it was a couple of years ago actually. What did he want for Christmas? And he said, I want a Ferragamo belt. I want some Gucci flip flops. And I'm like, wow, that's what it has come to. All right. Now, I must say, I know that kid's dad is not around. I know that kid's mother has to be both mom and dad. That kid's mother has to help with homework, has to attend football and basketball practices and games, all right, has to coach her son on how to treat a woman, and then has to try to coach her son on how to interact with other males. Okay? When really what ends up happening is that he becomes the runt of the group. Okay? I actually was having a conversation earlier, and this is going to sound a little off the wall, but just to caution you. But I was talking to a friend of mine, and I asked him, I said, hey, man, I was watching the movie Thor, and there was one part in the movie where he was trying to get this jet to start up, and he said he assumed the password was Thor, the strongest Avenger. And I said, man, why do they keep referring to Thor as the strongest Avenger? And I went back. I stopped that particular movie and went back and watched the original Thor. You know why Thor is the strongest Avenger? Because he had a father to raise him according to the way, to teach him how to become a man.
Mm.
And if you go back and watch that movie, when Thor was acting like a child, his father stripped him of his powers and kicked him off the planet.
Come on with it.
And he
Come
could
on
not
with it.
come back until he was ready. He couldn't get his powers back until he was ready. And then once he
Wow.
matured, they allowed him to become king.
Wow.
All right?
Wow.
You
Now,
just told me something I didn't even know.
but that's why
So
we got to watch these things. And don't take offense to this, but I want you to pay attention to it. Why do people think that Black Panther was the weakest Avenger? He was protected by a bunch of women. When a real killer came that had a real man in his life, he took him out. And then he had to get through the women first to get to him. Okay? In Wakanda, the women ran everything. They were in control of everything. They were the brains, they were the board, they were everything. Remember them guys, the dogs? We used to me and my boys call them the Qs. Right? Well, we like them motherfuckers. They run shit. They come to rape, pillage the land. They coming to do some damage. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, a lot of kids aren't being taught up to become successful men. And the woman is very important in that because a lot of, but
We lost her.
the woman is very important in that because a lot of men suffer from too much uh, macho-ness because they're not what they call in touch with their feminine side. They got to be tough all the time. You know what I mean? But in
But
the
the
presence
world is teaching men that that's what they're supposed to be. And I
by,
think that we don't help it
go ahead.
because a lot of us say, well, if he's crying, he's weak.
Right,
If he shows any type of emotion, he's a weak man. But
right.
where did that even come from? Because
Exactly.
white men do it.
Exactly. Exactly. You're absolutely right. And I tell my son, I say, hey, son, there's nothing wrong with crying. Crying cleanses the soul. Okay? That is if there's something wrong with it, you wouldn't be able to do it. It's natural. You know, all right? This is what your body does. Okay? When you have to release these emotions, you'll do that. What is weak is trying to hide it because you are afraid of what everyone or the perception that everyone else is going to have of you. That's the problem. You know what I mean? When really we need to just step up and say, hey, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. And this is what I'm doing. And if you feel like you can, stop me, motherfucker. But you can't do that. You know what I mean? Because there's too much people on the other side that are looking at you. And it takes guts and tenacity to be the person to stand alone and say, this is how I'm going about my path. Does that
But
make sense to
it's
you?
always like that though. When you want to do something different, it's scary to do something different, right? Or to be different.
Right.
I think maybe we should try to shift things to say being different is okay,
Absolutely.
but also put it in the right context.
Not
Because
even being different is okay. How about being different is cool? Being different is cool. And I'll tell you how cool being different is. Um, again, going back to the conversation that you guys were having about um our parents not teaching us certain things while we were a certain age and what we could have done younger. All right. Um, when I was in the 6th grade, I had a computer in my bedroom. All right. My dad went out, bought me a computer for my birthday. I had this real nice computer in my bedroom. I was in the 6th grade. That's a tool for success if I use it right.
mm-hmm.
Right? So fast forward to being a grown man, 20, 21, 22 years old. I'm in a parking lot pimping. Mark Zuckerberg is creating Facebook. Get what I'm saying? So that's how crucial it is for mentorship, support, and just having your kids try different things to see what they may be interested in and may become great at.
Yeah, but then it goes back to what Khadijah was saying. A lot of parents not being involved in knowing their child and what their child likes or dislikes, or
Right,
because like we've talked about before you joined, we were both teachers, and a
right.
lot of the time, those parents didn't know anything about what was going on with those kids.
And I can
They
relate to
didn't
that.
know the kids' likes, dislikes, or anything. And even when it came down to the discipline, they'll be like, well, I brought them here, so you tell them. And I'm like, well, I ain't they mama. You tell them. Like, that's what you're supposed to do.
And I can relate to
So
that.
it just goes back to like the disconnect between, and even having that relationship or that communication with the child, but understanding who your child is, what your child likes, and then cultivating those things so that
Absolutely.
they achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. Because we talked about too how a lot of them out of fear, out of our parents out of fear, did not achieve their own dreams because
Absolutely.
somebody told them something negative, or everybody else wasn't doing it, or they had no support in doing it. They winded up just having those dreams in their head, and they never came to fruition at any point. So it's like we need to end the cycle of that and actually say, hey, What is it that you're into? Even if you're not a parent, you are aunt, because there's a lot of us that don't have kids.
Right.
But even if you're a grandparent, say, okay, what you into now? I know that you was playing on the PlayStation or the whatever. What games do you like? Do you want
Right.
to make video games? Is that something that you think that you would like to do? Well, let's experiment and figure out how we can do that. Stuff like that. Because
Absolutely.
everybody can teach the child at any point. Everybody
Absolutely.
can make that child successful, because we don't know Mark Zuckerberg's upbringing. We don't know if, his parents were the ones that introduced him to whatever he had going on, or if it was an uncle
You're
or
absolutely right.
whoever. You know
You're
what I
absolutely
mean?
right.
But a lot of white people have other influence, and those influences, they'll run left. He's into art today. He's into violin tomorrow. He's into basketball next week, and they'll run around like a chicken with their head cut off to go do whatever it is that they into, because they figure eventually something will stick. But I don't
Absolutely.
understand why we don't do that in our culture.
Well, for one, what you're speaking of, in my opinion, is support and mentorship. All right, and that's huge. You know what I mean? Mentorship helped me change. All right, mentorship helped me change my life around completely. Um, in regards to why don't we do it, from what I've seen and in my opinion, it's work. Okay, and it's more work on top of the work you already have to do, dealing with the dysfunction you have to deal with when it comes to trying, whether you're a woman, a black woman, trying to raise kids, which majority of the time that's the case, multiple kids on your own. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, you also have this boy that you got these kids with, who's pretending to be a man, and he's just making your life hell. You know what I'm saying? And the reason I was saying that I could relate to that was because I was a football coach. All right. And as a football coach, I used to get these kids that would come to practice. They were always getting dropped off by the moms. The moms were always the ones at the games. You know what I mean? It was every so many kids that maybe the father was there. All right. And then the mother feels so bad for the kids that when the kid is acting out, the mother wants to shield him from what he really needs, which is to deal with the consequences of his actions.
Actions, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then to make him feel better and to make herself feel better, she shields him from that. She doesn't know that what she's really doing is creating a monster. You know what I mean? My son is 17 next month. I started coaching as soon as he started playing football. He was 5. All right. And so a lot of those kids that he played with have graduated high school or dropped out of high school or whatnot. Um, some have went on to college, you know what I mean? But majority of them, I could ride down the street and I see them walking down the street getting high. All right. Um, Another thing is that a lot of the pressure has built up on the woman so much that I got a friend who's a teacher at a pretty prestigious high school in the area, and she walked up to a student and she said, "Man, I'm just gonna keep it real with you, and I want you to keep it real with me. Why do you dress like you're a car cracker?" And this little boy said, "Because I am, and my mama drive a BMW, so she ain't gonna get me to stop." That little boy, as a junior in high school, has become the man of the house just because of his money. And his mother do not care how he getting it. All she knows is that he is making life easier on me, and I can take care of him and my kids the way that I want to. And his
Oh, man,
daddy is just
that's a
out of the
whole nother
picture.
conversation then.
Right. And his daddy is gone. You know what I'm saying? His daddy is gone. That's it. You get what I'm saying? So going back to my original statement, I say that men are not playing their role properly, and we really need to step it up. Um, it's starting to become more um aware, I guess I want to say, where people are just consciously thinking like, hey, I need to stay here for my son. You know what I mean? I need to be here with my kid. But there's still a lot that as soon as they hear that the woman is pregnant, they out the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I talked to a woman the other day. She said her son is 24. His dad is 37. I was like, whoa, that's crazy to me. I said, so what type of relationship he got with his dad? He ain't got no relationship with his daddy. He gone. We're gone like what? Like he don't come around, but he stay in the area. But Jesus Christ. You know what type of damage that does to a grown man that he never gets over? And now this woman had to raise this guy and try to raise a man the whole time by herself, but she don't know about the mental and emotional and physical obstacle he goes through as a man because she's not a man. She's aware of them, but she can't really tell him how to deal with these things because she's never experienced them before.
That's very true. And that's actually why the father's role is so important when it comes to children, even girls.
Even
Because
girls, absolutely.
for girls, the father lets them know how the game is played, what to do, what not to do.
Absolutely.
They are the child's first teacher. When
Absolutely.
it comes to, like, that's the crash course, hello, introduction to boys, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the father is like,
Gonna put you on game.
if your father has a standard, let's just say he does all of the daddy daughter dances,
Yeah.
he brings you gifts, and he treats you like a princess. As a girl, when I grow into a woman, I'm gonna be like, well, my husband got to do the same thing because my
Absolutely.
daddy did this. So it's
Absolutely.
like you set the tone for what she will accept and what she won't accept, and it's the same thing when it comes to boys. Even the
Absolutely.
mom, and moms don't realize this, their role is very important when it comes to boys because you are the boys' crash course into dating.
Absolutely.
So, however you handle him, however you talk about his father in front of him, he's gonna know, okay, well, this is how I'm supposed to act. So then I'm gonna go around and treat women just how you showing me. If you popping off every time, he gonna pick the pop off queen when he start dating because he think that that's normal. He not gonna
Absolutely.
pick nobody that has class or anything because he's gonna think, well, my mama did this, so it's okay. This what we supposed to be with, and that's
Absolutely.
normal, but it's not. It's dysfunctional.
It's dysfunctional. You are absolutely right. And let me touch on that for a second. Just that's what they mean by the generational curse. Okay? Where you have the mother who didn't have those tools or those references to go back to her mom and say, hey, mom, or her dad and say, hey, dad, what type of man do I want to date? You know what I mean? Because dad isn't present. Okay? And she doesn't have that relationship, that bond with the man to understand what she should and should not accept from a guy, what she's worth, and how a guy should value her. You know what I mean? So she grows up not knowing that, and then she has a little girl. And her little girl never learns that because what she accepted doesn't meet the standards, doesn't qualify. You understand what I mean? And that's why me and my 17-year-old son, because I also got three girls who are 6, 5, and 2. All right. One of my twins, I got a set of twins. One's a boy and one's a girl there too. My son and I, we take my daughters out because I tell them, I say, hey man, we got to take them to these nice restaurants. You know why? Because when they're 18, 19 years old, shit, when they're 15, 16 years old, and they're in the car with some dude, and he turn around and take them to Hamada's or Gibson's or something like that, my daughter ain't putting out because she gonna know, no, I'm worth more than this. You understand what I'm saying? My dad do this. I don't care about the shoes you got. I don't care about the car you drive. I don't even care that everyone else likes you. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I want to know who you are, what are you about, and how do you really feel about me? What is it that makes it so that you deserve me? That's it. Because your time is your most valuable asset.
Mm-hmm.
Once it's gone, you can't get it back. And at the end of the day, I want my daughter to be equipped and understand and know how to tell a person articulately, you're not worth my time. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
So, do
That's
you think that the disconnect when it comes to dating is because of the fact that maybe parents are not talking about their real experiences, or is it that they're not actually present and experiencing the things that they should be experiencing with their child? I saw some video that the mother was taking the son out on a date, right?
Yeah,
And people were like going ham, like, why is she doing that? That's like boyfriend, girlfriend stuff. It's kind of freaky. And I'm like, when do we start sexualizing mothers spending time with their kid? That don't make sense to me.
you're right.
Shouldn't she be showing him how he should be treating a woman and opening the door, how to order or pulling out a chair, whatever the case may be? We don't know what the lesson is that she was teaching, but when did it become wrong for a parent to actually have a date night? And I don't want to call it a date night, but spending time with your child. When did that become
Okay, so I'm glad you asked
an
that
issue?
question. I'm glad you asked that question because we actually spoke about that a couple months back. So, for one, we have not sexualized a parent spending time with their child, okay? However, when you use certain words, you have to understand that we as people have gave these words meaning. All right. And going on a date means to go out and spend time with a person that you may become romantically or just sexual with, or romantically involved with. All right. That's what going on a date means. So whenever you're dealing with your children, like my lady told me one time, you need to take your daughter on a date. And I said, no, I need to spend time with my daughter. That's it. You know what I mean? And during spending time with my daughter, I show her this is what a man's supposed to do. He's supposed to open your car door. He's supposed to let you order first. You know what I mean? Or all of those things. He's supposed to be considerate of these things. This is what he's supposed to be doing. But this is not a date. I'm not your boyfriend. I'm your father. Okay? So what I'm telling you what a man is supposed to do when he does take you on a date. Because there's no way you're going to become romantically involved with me. It's just not going to happen. It can't happen. You understand what I'm saying? And when later on in life, when you do become romantically involved with a person, you're going to have what they call standards. All right. And he's going to have to
Yes.
meet those standards. You know what I'm saying? And that is something that is missing on both sides of the spectrum. Men and women are those standards. All right. Which is why our focus is in the wrong place. And again, why the home is so screwed up because the first thing we are looking at is looks. We're looking at the what they call the assets. You understand what I mean?
We talked about that. Was you on here for that when we were
No,
talking about
I actually missed
the
that.
distractions that have happened? Because we were talking about how
Well,
our
DJ, get your ass
grandparents that
back
were
in here.
married
Oh, wait a
did.
minute. Hold on. Jamila is in here. If you all right with it, Jamila, I would love to see you join. But yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
um how our grandparents that were married didn't tell us about how they courted, because there was a courtship that happened, how long they stayed in that courtship phase, how long they when they decided that they were going to get married, how long they waited. They didn't wait a year. Wasn't
No.
no waiting a
Oh.
year,
I had that
2 years,
conversation.
all of that. Like, that did not happen.
That
So
didn't
it was
happen.
like, we gonna do this, and there was no real time wasted. And so we were talking about that earlier in the conversation on how those things have changed, and now there are more distractions to where you got all of these Instagram and all of these different apps that show nothing but somebody's body, or the men with the beards and the sweatpants and all of this different stuff. So it creates a divide and a distraction, because now
Absolutely.
people are optional and disposable, because you think,
Absolutely.
um well, I don't have to be with her. If this don't work out, I got this chick over here, I got this chick over there, and women do it too. I got this
Oh,
man over here and this man over there. So if you ain't doing what you supposed to do, then I got options. And that's technically not how they did it, and that's actually why their relationships lasted longer, because they actually chose each other. And
absolutely.
that's one of the things that's actually missing is to choose each other. And so even Khadijah and I was talking about how women now, they don't even want to cook. And I think you was in on that conversation. I'm not sure, but and I'm like, when did it become cool not to cook for your man? Like, I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me.
Can you invite DJ? And she said she got to be invited. Sorry to cut you off.
I don't know why it's not letting me do it.
Okay.
Can you do it?
I
No.
don't even know how to do it. Let me see. Yeah, I don't even know how to do this. I'm clicking buttons. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know what I do. I turned the camera off, muted, turned the camera around. I don't know how to do it. This is my first time ever going live.
There it is.
Okay. So were you able to send an invite? Okay, there you go.
All right, I'm back in.
All right.
Look, this time I got this little piece showing in on that camera, honey. I had to put a bandana on, child. I was tired of it. I was looking real nice and ugly right now with this pimple. Okay, but anyway.
Go ahead, Tiana. Oh, okay, go ahead, Khadijah.
But yeah, we were speaking about how, you know what I'm saying, our parents were grandparents was so old school to the point where, you know, they did have longer lasting marriages and relationships than our parents and now us, and so on and so on. Mm-hmm. And we was just really speaking about like how I wish, now I had a little bit of it because I was raised by my grandmother, but I wish that they kind of would have been a little bit more honest, or just technically just tell us, like, this is what you should look, you know, this is what you should be doing. This is, you know, what you should be looking for in a man, blah, 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 how to court. My main thing right now, and I am 37 years old, is that a lot of people do not know how to date. They don't know the difference between courting, dating, being in an exclusive relationship, etc. But the older generation did, which is why it lasted a little bit longer. But again, it was almost like, well, this grown folks business.
You want my charger?
We don't tell you grown folk business. And so because they were like that, we missed that step.
Yep.
We missed that step.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just now learning at 37 years old the difference between all of it. Like, a lot of people don't even know what courting is. They think it's just the old terminology. But no, it is a such thing. And it should have been taught to us as we were getting older enough to date. But we got
past that part. We have gone way past that part. So now it's become something that's old because we done went way past it. It's like either we doing this or we not doing this. It's like, okay, throw the courting part out. We straight in dating. We in a relationship.
Yep.
There's no leading up to say, okay, well, this is how I show you that I can provide, or this is how I show you that I am this type of a person. And there's another thing. There's not a lot of men trying to impress women. I feel like there's a lot of men, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong.
Are you on a roll?
Impress their friends.
What I say that all the time. Men are trying to impress other men. That's why they go after the women that they go for. That's why they drive the cars that they drive.
In competition with
That's
other
why
men.
they do all of that stuff. You know what I mean? It was a joke. I think it was Mike Epps that said, he said, man, you know, guys go out for an outfit. They be like, oh, man, I'm going to kill him at the club tonight. They ain't talking about the women. They talking about how they going to kill these other guys, how these other guys are going to be envious of them.
Why is that?
Believe it or not, man, that is a strong indicator of low self-esteem. That's a strong indicator of low self-esteem.
Insecurity,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because you're not happy with yourself.
I agree.
You're not happy with yourself. You know what I'm saying? I read in a book one time, don't ask me which one because I don't remember. It said competition is for pussies. And I said, damn, you absolutely, what the hell am I competing with you for?
Straight up.
Why am I competing with you? Why am I worried about what you have and how I stack up against you? You gonna be great in your way, I'm gonna be great in mine.
That's right.
Why does it have to be a competition? And even if you are better than me, there's still enough out here where I can still get mine.
Definitely.
So when do we think that this shifted? Because I don't remember grandparents or our granddads competing with other men. Like,
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Let me go back to what you were saying first. When I wanted to say I had that conversation with my grandmother in regards to, man, how did you and granddad get married and hook up, get married and have 9 kids? All right. And before I say that, I want to say this. My dad is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And he used to say things to me, and I'd be like, "Nigga, you lame as hell." You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell, man? My daddy lame as a motherfucker. But when I watched that movie Fences, I understood.
Mm.
Have you guys seen the movie Fences?
Mm-hmm.
When you watch the
Denzel
movie,
Washington.
when you
Yeah.
watch the movie Fences, you understand. One thing that is huge in the black community, I married him because I love him. This is my man. I love him. I've been with 30 years. I love him. I've been this, that, and the third. I love him. But very rarely do you see it where people are in love with each other.
Mm.
Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
very rare. Um, and the thing is that a lot of times it's situational, especially back in those days where our grandparents were coming along. You got to remember, me and Khadijah talk about this all the time, man. When our grandparents was coming up, slavery wasn't, our grandparents weren't, but our great grandparents were probably slaves. So you have a situation where you may go ahead and say, "Hey, I knew this girl from high school, and I got her pregnant. What else are you gonna do? That's the requirement. You marry her, and she stays, and you go get a job, and you provide for your family, and she's a homemaker." These were roles that were set
Mm-hmm.
on a giant scale, and a lot of people weren't happy with that. They just lived by that. They just did that.
Exactly.
You know
That's
what I
true.
mean? They just did that, and that's
That's,
why, and
that's
that's why
true.
they portray it to a T in movies. Man goes to work, comes home, gives the woman his check. His woman give him just enough to go buy cigarettes and some drinks. He go down to the bar. He sit down with his friends down at the bar. He sneak off with some other woman here and there now and again. Now you got a whole another family trying to do what he's trying to do for them too.
True.
You know what I mean? So understand that there is such a thing as we call it now, situationships. That's been happening for years.
True.
You know what I'm saying? We've been oppressed to the point that we don't even know that that's happening.
that's true.
That's true.
We don't even know that that's happening to us. We thinking, well, our grandparents were thinking, this is my man, this is my dude, I love this dude. Man, if you had a better opportunity or whatever, she would have been gone on your ass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but then that's the thing, like choosing to be with that person versus making them an option is one of the things that I was talking about before. Like, now people have become more disposable because people realize that there are options, but that doesn't make the relationships better because a lot of people are not getting married based on the fact that they have options. So
Yeah.
it's like, if you always got a back door, are you gonna stick it out with the person that you committed to? No, you're not. You're gonna be like, well, this person down the street do it better
Yep.
than you, or they
Yep.
got more money than you, so I'm
Deuces.
just going down the street to Joe
Yep.
or whoever, and peace out.
Yeah, and
Yep.
that's I love that you said that, man, because I'm going to talk about that, and then I got something else I want to jump into real quick. Um, a lot of people aren't built like that. You know what I mean? A lot of people aren't built to be so durable. You know what I mean? They say, "Hey, like I'm looking for a better situation, and once I find it, I'm gone." You know what I mean?
Is
But
it that
that
they're not durable or that they're scared?
it's both, because it's a situational thing. You know what I mean? So there's different reasons for different situations. But a lot of people aren't built that way, and that's why I say that it's an issue because people don't go for the person that they fall in love with. They go to a person that they just simply like. I like him a lot. I'm gonna marry him.
Or sometimes what they are able
Go
to
ahead.
do for you.
Absolutely. I tell you what. How many times have you heard of somebody meet somebody at the club? They hook up with the person that night at the club, and then a week later, them and that person are together in a relationship.
Right.
When we was young, that used to happen. And those people be together
Mhm.
3, 4, 5 years. And you be like, damn, y'all really did that? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Y'all really did
Right.
that? But here's another thing, too, that, and I'm not, being a black man, I'm not looking to bash black guys. I'm just speaking the truth. The problem with relationships, I love what happened with that guy, Derek Jackson. I love what happened with him
Did you
because
just say that?
Yeah, he
I
did, and
did,
I really want you to explain.
because he exposed a lot of what's wrong with black relationships. All right. This
Okay.
guy had women captivated for years. For one, he wasn't telling you anything that you didn't already know. It just sounded good coming from him. But you as an adult, you already knew these things. All right. The other thing was women all know when you first start dating someone, what do you call that person that you meet? The
I am
representative.
talking to.
You call them the representative,
Oh, right,
True.
right,
right?
right,
Because that's what you're meeting. They representatives. You
right.
You
don't
meet the
know who they really
representative.
are.
And this guy gave you the representative for years. And any man could have told you, any man worth his salt could have told you, dude is fishing. And your woman
But
probably
then
will
that
argue.
goes back to what they not telling you.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is that, but here's the thing, though. There's men that didn't even know that their woman was following this woman, was following this guy. Most of them guys, most of them women, they men didn't know that they woman was following this dude. Because the guy was telling them, like, hey, this dude is fishing. This is a joke. All right. And if your woman do go back and forth with you about it, the thing is baby, I'm glad that this happened because you had more faith in a person that you didn't even know than the person that's actually here with you telling you what this is. And you had to wait years to find out he's a phony. You know what I'm saying? And he had you captivated around things that you already know yourself.
But then that's also like, what's the relationship guy? Kevin Samuels.
Oh, he's such a joke. He's such a
That all of
joke.
these women, and I'm gonna just say this: women, stop calling on these public platforms talking about how you gonna find a husband, and talk to the
Right.
men that's around you.
Absolutely.
Cut that out because it
Listen,
makes you look crazy. It
listen.
makes you look desperate,
Yes,
and it opens the door for these men to publicly degrade and demean you.
And
Stop the
and and
nonsense.
and it gives them an opportunity to hunt you down. Oh, she open.
exactly.
A
She a
conversation,
fool.
a
She don't know no
conversation,
better.
absolutely, absolutely. A conversation that we had in the barber shop a couple of weeks ago. And I made this statement. I said, man, I said, when I was young, I was like Tom Brady. I said, because these women defense is so weak, all I had to do was fall back. I don't have to scramble for anything because somebody's gonna be open. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it comes down to. I tell my girl all the time. I say, baby, I can't wait till my daughters get older because they kung fu gonna be strong as hell. Dude's gonna be like, man, I don't even want to bother with her, man. It's just too much work. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and that's the best way to do it, just because of the
True.
simple fact that, man, people don't have that willpower to keep going for what they want as soon as they hit an obstacle. They don't. What happened with? We've all been there. Even myself. What happened when you're young and you're dealing with a young bull, a young man that is upset because he ain't getting what he wants? Then what happens? Stop. Then what happens? He get into his feelings. Then he start acting crazy. Now he arguing and fighting with you. That should tell you right there. This ain't nobody I want to be bothered with,
Yeah.
right? But we ignore them signs.
We
We
ignore
ignore all of
them
that.
because we want to, as women, also have that companionship. We want a man, we want this, we want that. And we have also bended those rules because of that.
Right.
But then on the flip side of it, we talking about, oh, he a bitch ass.
Right. But next week I'm gonna give him some ass. And then the real problem is this: man and female. That when we're dealing with those things, the reason we lose control is because we're not aware of how to deal with those things, right? And we can't go to our parents and say, we're not that we can't. A lot of times we're not even comfortable going to our parents and saying, hey, this is what I'm dealing with.
But then that herein lies the problem again. Why can't we have these conversations?
Because we don't
Why
have the
aren't these
confidence.
conversations being had? Because they know what they've experienced.
Right.
They
They done
know
been
what
through
they
it already.
dealt with.
Right.
They know the game. Everybody mama know that either by trial and error, what type of man the man you dating is, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if they not telling you the real, like, well, you know, he seems like he's playing games, he's not serious, or you know, whatever the case may be, a lot of these women are not saying, based on my experience, daughter, based on my experience, niece, based on my experience, granddaughter, you know, he's doing a lot of this, and this.
Right.
And it seems like he's not really ready for a real relationship. So maybe you should just think about or consider X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? A lot of these conversations are not being had. And then they just watch you and they be like, well, I ain't like him anyway.
Right.
Exactly. So,
Right.
in my opinion, again, that comes to not having the respect, all right, for your elders to even respect what they're trying to give you, and
Okay.
not having the connection with them. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times you go to people that you respect for guidance.
So then, so when we were kids, what was the thoughts that was like going through our heads, like when our parents would tell us certain things?
I'll tell you exactly
Let's just
what my
say,
thoughts were.
you said what?
I'll tell you exactly what my thoughts were. At the end of
What
the
was
day,
what?
I kid you not. I used to look at my daddy. I'd be like, oh my God, this nigga lame as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, daddy, trying to fuck these hoes. You know what
And
I'm saying?
you know what? That's actually a problem because it's like, why did we really reject what some of the stuff they may have said when
Because
they did say something? It may
right,
not have came out right, but
right, and
we
that's
was
another
like,
thing too.
what?
That's another thing
But
too.
the
Go ahead.
real conversations was not happening.
Right,
Like the real life stuff that should have been said
Right.
was not going on. And if it was in somebody's household, that's rare because
rare.
most black families have a lack of communication in that family somewhere down the line. Something was lost in translation and was not
Right.
told. So
Yeah.
what was it you was about to say? It was something else you was about to say.
So like I said, I used to. There was a. You ever grow up feeling like that you just wanted more?
Absolutely.
Right. And when you feel that way, who's supposed to give you more? Your parents, right?
Right.
All right. So a lot of times when you're looking at them, you're like, man, this is what I was a realist. I was looking at my people like, this is what y'all are. I told my mom the other day. I was just joking with her. I said, hey, ma, my mom, her family was from, you know what I'm saying, the hood. And I was like, man, when I was growing up, y'all used to talk so much stuff. I thought I was part of the Sopranos. I said, when I got older, I found out I was part of the Simpsons. I was like, man, y'all was some clowns. Y'all wouldn't know nothing.
I swear.
I
I
said,
swear.
y'all wouldn't know nothing. I hear all
But
this stuff
again,
talk. I hear about
but
all this stuff
again,
everybody
we
can
only
do
feel like that now because we have now been through our
because
own
we've been through our own
experiences
stuff.
without being taught.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's the
Absolutely.
problem, though.
Right.
That's the problem. And that's what I was saying earlier with going to our parents. They always felt like my experiences, everything that I have been through, that is my business. You are a kid. Stay in a
The
kid's
kids
lane.
place. Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that.
Absolutely.
However, that is also wrong to a certain degree because in order to make yourself more relatable to your children, you have to tell them some things. I'm not saying your own personal things, but at least a story or hell, make up one, but to You need to do something to be more relatable. But they closed that door before we was even able to try
But
and
not
open
just
that door.
relatable, but give them what you know is gonna happen. That's like your child walking in front of a hole, and you like, well, they'll see it, they'll walk around it, and
Yeah,
then they
absolutely.
fall right into it, and you like, but I thought you saw that, and they
Right.
like, but you saw it, you ain't tell me, like that.
I had that happen to me. Let me tell you something real crazy.
That's
I
a
think
good analogy.
you know how old I.
Say that again. Uh-oh.
Sorry, do you know how old I was when I first moved somebody in with me? I was
Mm-mm.
15.
Just tell us.
What?
I'm I moved my son's mother into my parents' house with me.
No, sir. I wish Kaden would.
Exactly. We can say that. We can say I say that now. My son's 17. I wish he would try it next year when he's 18. I wish he would try it. No, it's not going down. But at the end of the day, man, like I kid you not, I am that person that will have that conversation with my parents and other people's parents, right? And when I have those conversations, man, I'm not even surprised anymore about what people did and what they got away with when they were young and their parents knew but never said anything.
Never said, yeah.
Never said anything ever. When I first moved in with someone, my parents never told me like, "No, you don't do that." They was like, "All right, I'll talk to you later." You know what I'm saying? Well, my buddy did it, and he came from a well-rounded home. Well-rounded home. His parents was just like, "All right, you know, you're 19. You go ahead and do what you want to do." You know what I mean? And it's like, no, don't just throw us out there. We still need your guidance. We're
We
still
need
developing.
guidance even now.
There's a reason why
Yeah,
they say that we got to be 21 or older to drink because mentally we ain't prepared to handle
We're
that at
not
18,
exactly.
19. Are you telling me I can go to an adult prison at 18, but I can't buy a fucking drink at 18? You get what I'm saying? There's a reason why they do this. So, um, again, I just feel like, again, I say mentorship, support, the respect and the connection, man, is all what has to be within the household, man. And um, I guess I want to end that with saying that I watched something one time and a dude said the one thing that's more important than any man's life is order. And that sounded
Mm.
so stupid to me when I heard it. But now I understand because having the son that I have and in the situation that he's in regards to his schooling, like I said, he goes to a private school and all of that stuff. If I don't have my stuff in order, I've set him up for failure, which means I've failed at my job.
uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you know what I'm saying. So that's really it there, in my opinion, man. But I agree with you 100%, Tiana. Those conversations I needed, those connections I needed, and um, I feel like that parents need to know that they can't teach their kids everything, and they have to be careful and strategic in regards to who they do allow their kids to teach, to learn from.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
So on
yeah.
that note, because we've been in here a long time, y'all. The conversation done got good,
Yeah, it
y'all.
had got good, honey. I was supposed to put Kaden to bed a whole hour ago. That's why it
I was supposed
sounded
to be
so
in bed an hour and a half ago myself.
much.
So we was talking about the topic of the conversation for those who just joined was so this is life. So we was just basically talking about the lessons that we winded up learning on our own that we wish that our elders had taught us. Whether it was our parents, our grandparents, our aunt or uncle, all of the lessons that we
Whoever.
learned that we
Yeah.
wish that would have been told to us. And now that we are now responsible for carrying on to the next generation so they don't make the same mistakes that we made. So you all have talked about so much, and this has been like a really, really good conversation. But I'm gonna end it because we've been on here for a long time. So we gonna pick this back
Absolutely.
up next week, Wednesday at 7 o'clock. So for all of y'all that's on, make sure you tune in. Grab your wine. If you want your kids to be a part of the conversation, grab them too. make sure they supervised in these conversations because we don't know what
Right.
people might pop on and say.
Right.
So be prepared to maybe explain some things. This is a real honest conversation. So all of y'all with y'all feelings, I don't know what to tell you. It might hurt a little bit. It's okay. We gonna grow. We gonna heal. We gonna talk about it and get through it together. So all right. See y'all later.
All right. Have a good
Okay,
night.
bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Uh-oh. It's not like that. Sorry.